Shalom, Shalom, Israel. This is your brother Yahya Bandele, welcoming you to the Kofa Network. It is certainly a privilege and a pleasure that you have seen fit to come cry Kofa with us today. Today's lesson is entitled, When is the Sabbath Day? When is the Sabbath Day? We're not going to hold you up. We're going to go right into the lesson. What I'd like for you to do right now is to turn your Bibles to Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. Please read verse 1 through 13. That is Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, verse 1 through 13. We will be doing our lesson from the King James Version. Whatever scriptures you use, that's totally up to you. Just for your scriptural reference and your study reference today, we will be using the King James Version, and I need for you to read Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, verse 1 through 13. We'll be right back. All right, brothers and sisters, welcome back. I pray that Leviticus 23rd chapter, verse 1 through 13 has been beneficial to you. During that chapter, you read about the weekly Sabbath, you read about the Passover, you read about the unleavened bread, and now we're going to get into that 14th verse and really start to study about the significance of YaHWeH's Sabbath day. Now, when we look at the 14th verse of Leviticus, it says, "And ye shall eat neither bread nor parched corn, nor green ears until the self same day that ye have brought an offering unto your father. It shall be a Sabbath unto you." It says, once again, that 14th verse says, "And ye brought an offering unto your father. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations and in all your dwellings." It's a statute, which means this is something that is put aside no matter where we dwell at, as the scriptures say. This shall be a statute unto you. Now you have to remember now, when YaHWeH gave this statute to Moses, that wherever we go, that this will be a statute unto us. That same, if you look at that same verse, it says, "And ye shall eat neither bread nor parched corn nor green ears until the self same day that ye have brought an offering unto your father. It shall be a statute forever throughout all your generations and in all your dwellings." When the Father made this to us, his thought process is this. And obviously he's omniscient, which means he knows all things. But we would continue in our heritage. And no matter if we dwelt in Jerusalem, we dwelt in Judea, if we dwelt in Tiberias, if we dwelt in Dimona, no matter where we dwelt at, we were supposed to hold on to YaHWeH's Sabbath day. Now, obviously, we lost our heritage. Obviously, we were taken away on slave ships, and we have not been in the land of Israel for over 2,000 years. According to history, the true Hebrew Israelites were tossed out of Israel in 70 A.D. And since 70 A.D., we have no land to call our own. We've been under captivity to several other nations and peoples and tongues. So a lot of things happened which fulfilled the prophecies of the prophets of what would happen to the children of Israel. And one important prophecy that you need to keep in mind as we go through this study is that Jeremiah said that we would discontinue from our heritage. Even you, Israel, should discontinue from our heritage. But I want to make sure that you brothers and sisters coming in with the mindset that Hebrew Israelites fell so mightily that now they are spread throughout the four corners of the earth, and so the very promise that we made to our Father was contingent that we would be obedient to Him and keep His vows. This lesson will point to that. I want you to go to the 15th verse with me. And that 15th verse says this, "And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete." He's explaining to us, brothers and sisters, on how we can recognize and on what we need to do to understand his Sabbath days. Remember, this is not our Sabbath day. This is not the Gentile Sabbath day. This is not the Edomite Sabbath day, or the Wiccans, or those who practice witchcraft. It's not their Sabbath day. It's YaHWeH's Sabbath day. And he told us that we will count, and ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath. So after YaHWeH's Sabbath, he says, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering. Remember, we were agriculturists, we were farmers, we lived out the land. And the land and how we offered our sacrifice to our Father was on how we were to count the completion of the 7 Sabbaths. And so, remember, you have Sabbath days and you have Sabbath years. This is counting Sabbath days. And Sabbath days, Sabbath weeks, Sabbath years. We're talking about Sabbath days here, brothers and sisters. And these Sabbath days shall be complete after 7 Sabbaths. And then that 16th verse says, even unto the morrow, after the 7th Sabbath, shall ye number 50 days, and ye shall offer a new meat offering unto Yahweh. Remember, brothers and sisters, after the 7th day, after the 7th year, after you always start afresh, that's Jubilee, the 8th, or the 50th. Now 7, what comes after 7, which is 8? What comes after 49 is 50. And so when you see here, when that next verse lets you know that we're talking about Sabbath weeks. Why? Look at that. When you look at the 16th verse, it says, even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall ye number 50 days, and ye shall offer a new meat offering unto Yahweh. So when we're talking about 7 Sabbaths, those 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, and remember back then there was not weeks. They looked everything at the moon, the sun, and the stars. But just for your understanding, it was a completion of 7 sevens that they brought forth the wave offering, the sheep offering to our Father. And after the seventh Sabbath, which was 49 total, the 50th day started anew, was Jubilee. And that's why all of us here who are here at the Kofa Network, and even those who scattered throughout the world, we're happy that the Father said that there will be 70 weeks that will be appointed to Israel to be under captivity to our enemies. And those 70 weeks is contingent upon us being under these captivity of these enemies, of the lands that we'll be slaves and be in bondage and be in captivity to. These 7 Sabbaths speaks to us on how the Father keeps his time. How he keeps his time. And he was sharing that with us, brothers and sisters. He was sharing that with us. And he said after the 7th Sabbath, that it will be 50 days, and then you start anew. That's how it is with us, brothers and sisters. That's why Daniel says 70 weeks is appointed to Israel that we'll be under captivity. But that last week, after that's completed, then our chastisement is over. Why? That's how the Yahweh counts time. But we don't know the Yahweh's time. Yahweh Shua said, no man knows the day nor the hour, but our Father only. So what we do, we look for the signs of times, so that we can build we don't know the day or the hour, but since we lost our heritage, according to Jeremiah, the 17th chapter and the 4th verse, that now we had to look, and we had to look at the times, we had to look at the seasons, we had to look at what's happening in the world, so we can identify when that Jubilee for us is happening. Here the Father explained to us when it comes to our offering, to our agriculture, to our fields, on how we can determine his time, his Sabbaths, but we also can take that on how we can identify when the time of the not only the end of the chastisement of the Hebrew Israelites will begin, but when the chastisement of the world will begin. And so it all is contingent upon Yahweh's set apart days, and only he knows it. And he gave to Moshe to give to our ancestors. Now, once again, it's key for you to look at Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, verse 1 through 4, because it explains to you once again, and that should be your capitalization on how Yahweh spake to Moses, saying, speaking to the children of Israel, and saying to them, concerning the feast of their father, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. And so remember now, Moses didn't come up with these days. Jeremiah didn't come up with the days. Ezekiel didn't come up with the days. It was Yahweh. He came up with the days. He looked at the moon and stars and skies, and he told Moshe, give this to the children. So so someone saying that, hey, even though we were away for 2,000 years in the land of, now wake up in the land of our enemies, that someone kept the tradition of Moshe, even though everyone who enslaved us is the children of the enemy. This is why it's important, brothers and sisters, to understand that these days are not just something frivolous. These are days that the Father gave to Moshe, and Moshe gave to us. But as it says, Jeremiah 17:4, we shall discontinue from our heritage. Now, look at Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, and the 5th verse. You understand on how the Father determines his time. He said, on the 14th day of the first moon at twilight is Yahweh's Passover. You see, brothers and sisters, the Father looks at the moon. He looks at the contextual usage of the sun, the moon, the stars in order to determine time. That's why in the book of Joel or the book of Matthew, 24th chapter, it says that on that day the moon, the sun, the stars will no longer give its light. The stars shall fall, because that's how what? That's how the Father tells His time, not tick-tock of the clock, but of Yahweh's time and His days. And only Yahweh knows that day or the hour, because time had been lost, because we discontinued from our heritage. And as it says in Psalms 83rd chapter, verse 1 through 4, the children of Israel shall be cut off from being a nation. Now, look at verse 37 of Leviticus, 23rd chapter. It says this: these are the feasts of Yahweh, which shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire unto your Father, a burnt offering and a meat offering, a sacrifice, a drink offering, everything upon His day. Upon His day. So you see how Yahweh is on your screen. You see Yahweh, how that's highlighted, and then you see the word His is in capital. It's Yahweh's day. And so when we gather on days that are set aside by Julius Caesar or by Constantine or by the Gregorian calendar or by the popes of the Catholic Church or by those who enslaved us and put us on plantations and then woke us up one day and said, okay, this is the day. And then he says, okay, all you ignorant slaves, go tell everyone else that this is the day, this is the holy day. And then if anyone doesn't do this, they're evil. And then that's what we have today, brothers and sisters. Listen, as our brother Paul says in Romans the 14th chapter, whatever day that you put in your heart is the day of Yahweh, on that day you set aside for Him. But there are folks that will come to you and will say that the day of Saturn, or Saturday, is Yahweh's day. And based on what? Based on what our enemy has told us. And so whatever day you put in your heart, you set aside for Yahweh. But when you start to dogmatically say to people, well, you're wrong, this is the day as the European says the day, then you browbeat other people to believe something that the enemy gave us. You better make sure it's Yahweh's day, His day. All right? Look at verse 38. It says, besides the Sabbaths of Yahweh, and besides your gifts, and beside all your vows, and beside all your free will offerings, which you give unto your Father. See, verse 38 lets you say that he says, beside the Sabbaths of Yahweh, and beside your gifts, and beside all your vows. Brothers and sisters, you have to understand, Yahweh set all this up. He set up His day. He said, give gifts unto Him. He said, and give offerings unto Him. But what did He want more? He wanted our vows, our promise that we'll be His people. He will be our daddy. That He will be the Most High. That we will be the priest unto the world. But we abdicate our responsibility. And so, in fact, matter, the Father said on that day only He will bring us back into the knowledge of the truth and to bring us back into the land. But you have many folks just rebellious. I can see why our people were slaves or just living continually in ghettos and slums and never being able to rise above that circumstance, because they're so venomous in their doctrine to be somebody floating on a cloud. Say, I don't know when Yahweh's day is. Yahweh Himself will tell us. Yahweh, sure, He wasn't so bold to say, I know the day or the hour. He said, I know the day or the hour, because it's all based on Yahweh's time. He said, only the Father alone knows that day, knows that hour. And so why? Because what He gave us, we gave away. Yahweh only knows His Sabbath days. And He gave it to Moshe to give to the Israelites. The Israelites discontinued from their heritage. Why? Because we broke our vows. Verse 38. And now what happens when you break your vows? According to Hosea, the 2nd chapter, 11th verse says this: I will also cause all her mirth, which means joy, to cease, her feast days, her new moons, and her Sabbaths, and all her solemn feasts. So is Hosea wrong? Is there still joy on the Sabbath day, on the feast days, all her new moons, all her solemn feasts? No, the scripture says he will cause all that to cease. What, only going to have it cease for 2,000 years until a bunch of Negroes from America wake up and then they run around and rent out hotels and then say, this is Sabbath day, if you don't do it all the way, you're evil, we'll kill you and all that stuff? It'll only cease until the Negroes wake up, until the Father redeems us. I'm not fooled by those who claim to be Hebrews floating on a cloud. I'm not fooled by that. Many of you are. And this is why we're doing this. This is why we're doing this training. Because you're fooled. But Hosea said, I will call all her joy to cease. That's why no matter how holy these folks act, it's a front. And when the scriptures will let you know that it's a front. On that note, I want you to take a break. Read Hosea to chapter 2. Read it in its totality. And so you'll see that the prophet Hosea told you that this day will come. Now you can either ignore the prophet Hosea, or you can be able to say, maybe those who I put as my leader may be incorrect. Check it out. We'll be right back. Hey, all right, brothers and sisters. You read Hosea, the 2nd chapter. You see the prophet was not playing. And not only was not Hosea playing, but Ezekiel wasn't playing. Jeremiah wasn't playing. Obadiah wasn't playing. Amos wasn't playing. You know what I mean? Nehemiah wasn't playing. The prophets were not playing. That's why they stoned and killed the prophets according to Matthew 23rd chapter. Because the prophets warned them that you won't be Israel anymore. The Father will put you aside. You won't be his child anymore. He said that to us. Even Hosea, the 4th chapter, 6th verse says, my people reject knowledge, I shall reject you and your children. This is why the world looks at you and realizes that you have no power. They look at you, they realize that you're slaves and that you live in ghettos and slums, and we're not staying with our children, raising them and teaching them. Not the fact that everything has to be perfect, but our effort is not dripped in righteousness. So the world sees us as a spiritual entity that's powerful, so they want to watch us play basketball or watch us run track or want to hear us sing or hear us speak at a podium. But because we reject our Father, he rejected us, and so that's why the world knows that we may profess something and we're only large in our own eyes, and the world is waiting for the true Hebrew Israelites to rise. And this is why we're crying Kofa, because the fact of the matter is that there are many who realize they don't have any power, they don't have the truth, and so they have to hide behind the old traditions of our ancestors. And that's why Peter says that what our ancestors taught us is worthless. We're going to get into all that, brothers and sisters. But as you see, Hosea clearly states that the Father will put us aside, that we will no longer be his children. But thank the Father, he says in that same chapter 2, on verse 21, it says, and it shall come to pass in that day. Remember, not the day, that in that day, I will hear, saith Yahweh, I will hear the heavens, and they shall hear the earth. See, the heaven and earth. Israel we are the land, and the land is us. We are contained to the land of Israel, and the land is contained to us. And so the fact, my brothers and sisters, is that Yahweh's days and how he counted the Sabbath days and how he was to bring forth the harvest of our bounty, everything was connected to the land was connected to us. That's why the Father says that the land couldn't rest when you Negroes were there. And so he said, I'll send you off on slave ships so the land can finally rest, because we did not hold up our end of the bargain. We abdicated our responsibility, and now we are just waking up to the truth. And many of us are waking up to the same foul spirit as our ancestors. But then, as you see here in verse 22, it says, and the earth shall hear the corn and the wine and the oil, and they shall hear Jezreel. And I will sow her unto me in the earth, and I will have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy. And I will say to them which were not my people, thou art my people, and they shall say, thou art my Father. Brothers and sisters, Yahweh would never left us to be on slave ships. He would never left us to be molested. But we left him. So the world looked at us that we were nowhere near the Father's people. But they didn't understand prophecy, didn't understand scripture. That would come upon the children of Israel. That's why those from China, Thailand, no matter where you go, They all heard about these Negroes in America and in Jamaica, in the islands of the sea, scattered throughout some parts of Europe. They heard about us and said, "They're no good, immoral, but I can't keep my eyes off them. Why do my young daughters want them?" Come on now. Because there's something in the children of Israel, but they don't know it. And then those who may know the technical truth, they don't have the spiritual truth. And since they don't have the spiritual truth, they do what their ancestors have done. They want to be somebody. And so they lie and hide behind the death of our ancestors and bring you into their deception. So, as you see, Hosea wasn't playing that. If, let's say, you guys already said, well, you know what, let's erase Hosea. I don't like Hosea anyway. And let's erase Hosea. We don't want to listen to him. But then you got to deal with Isaiah, the first chapter. And turn with me to the 13th verse. This is what Isaiah says. Isaiah says that this is what the Father said to the prophet Isaiah, as same what he said to Hosea. He told Isaiah to tell the people, "Bring no more vain oblations, incense, and abomination to me. The new moons and Sabbaths, the calling of assemblies, I cannot away with it. It is iniquity, even a solemn meeting. Your new moons and your appointed feasts, my soul hateth. They are trouble unto me. I am weary to bear them. And when ye spread forth your hands, I will hide mine eyes from you. Yea, when ye make many prayers, I will not hear. Your hands are full of blood." So remember now, you will close your eyes and you will bend your knees in prayer. And the Father says, "I will not hear you. Your hands are full of blood." And the 16th and 17th verse says, "Wash you, make you clean, put away the evil of your doings from before mine eyes. Cease to do evil. Learn, brothers and sisters, learn to do well. Seek judgment, relieve the oppressed, judge the fatherless, plead for the widow." See, that when Yahushua came, and the Pharisees said, "Oh, the Sabbath day, you're doing something on the Sabbath day." Same evil, foul spirit that rests in this land today from those who claim that they're living for the Father. Same foul, evil spirit. And they were concerned about, well, the Sabbath. And what did Yahushua say? Love somebody. Love your neighbor as yourself. This is the first and last commandment, and the second is like unto it. Love your neighbor as yourself. See, this is what the Father wants. Love somebody. Love your children. Many of you haven't even never met your children. Children don't even know that you daddy. But yet you want to tell somebody about a Sabbath day that you don't even know. And you base it on some European that called you 3/5 of a human being. Verse 18 and 19 says this, "Come now, and let us reason together, saith Yahweh. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool. If ye be willing and obedient, ye shall eat the good of the land." Brothers and sisters, the Sabbath day has to do with the land and with us. Remember, the Father said, "You shall count 7 Sabbaths from the time you bring forth the sheep and the wave offering." Everything was contingent upon the land, because the land is in us and we are in the land. And in all your dwellings that you shall keep this day, he's talking about in the land. If you're in Tiberias, if you are in Jerusalem and Judea, if you're in Damona, it doesn't matter if you're in Caesarea. In all your dwellings, wherever you dwell within that land, you are to keep that day, because I'm your daddy and you are my child. But when you abdicated your responsibilities, when you made it your own feast and you didn't obey my word, he's told you in Hosea and Isaiah, "I don't like your feasts. I don't like your holy days, your new moons. And I don't care how low you grow your beard and how deep you say you are. If you got a cloud that you're floating on, it does not matter." Now, you say, "Yahya, how you going to say that?" Well, the Father says that. We're going to get it right too. We're going to get it from his own mouth, out of the word. Now, let's go on to the 20th verse. It says this, "But if ye refuse and rebel, ye shall be devoured with the sword, for the mouth of Yahweh has spoken it." Verse 21 says, "How is the faithful city become a harlot? It was full of judgment, righteousness lodged in it, but now murderers." We were a faithful city. The Father gave us his word. He gave us his laws. He gave us our commandments. He gave us a law so we would keep his commandments. He said, the scripture says that the law was like a schoolmaster until the teacher came, until the law was fulfilled, until the fullness of the law came. And that came through our brother Messiah Yahushua. That's why Yahushua said, "The same spirit I have, you have. Let that same spirit that rests in me rest in you." But see, as you see, brothers and sisters, that's not what that faithful city became faithful in his own self. It became like a whore. And judgment, which means rightful thinking, used to be in Israel. Now it's not rightful thinking. It's nowhere near rightful thinking. It's sad, demonic thinking. And that's what has hold of many of our brothers and sisters today. Look at Hosea, the 5th chapter. Go back to Hosea, the 5th chapter, 7th verse. It says this: they are unfaithful to Yahweh. They give birth to illegitimate children. Now their new moon festivals will devour them and their fields. See, everything was connected to the land was connected to us. When you separate us from the land, then you separate us from the promise that the Father has made to us. And when we were tossed out of Israel, everything was tossed out with it. And then the Father said, that's why on that day I will give you a new name and a new language. And so this is our situation. But then you see those same crooked Hebrew Israelites that hung Yahushua on the tree. That same spirit rests in folks in all the major cities and some of the country cities who they rent out hotels and homes and hammocks and say, I'm a deep Hebrew, listen to me. And if anyone who don't listen to me, they're wrong. Brothers and sisters, what we're saying to you is this: that we lost our heritage, and that so the Father is restoring it to us back to who we are. He's restoring it to a remnant. And all we're saying to you, brothers and sisters, whatever day that the Father has put in your heart that's the day. If you hold that Saturday as a Sabbath day, and you don't feel comfortable holding your Sabbath to any other day, ain't nobody mad at you. But just don't go tell somebody that Saturday is the Sabbath day. If they don't do it on Saturday, they're wrong. Because what we're doing now, we're showing you the scriptural piece to this. But there is a historical piece, and there's a science piece that will let you know that those who have set the time today, and who have set the day that Saturday's a day, that they are not founded on truth, obedience, or knowledge of Yahweh's word. Look at Amos. So let's say you say, well, let's get rid of Hosea and let's get rid of Isaiah, because you don't like what they say. Then you got to go to Amos, the 8th chapter, 10th verse. It says this: I will turn your religious feast into mourning, and all your singing into weeping. I will make all of you wear sackcloth and shave your heads. I will make that time like mourning for an only son, and the end of it like a bitter day. What's that saying, brothers and sisters? He said, listen, all your party over here, party over there, that day is done, your religious feast. He will turn that into mourning, because you turn all this into nothing but a block party. And your singing shall be turned into weeping. And I will make all you wear sackcloth. Sackcloth is indignant. Is a sign of sorrow and of deep sadness. He said, I will make you wear sackcloth, and I will shave your heads. Heads means that who's your spiritual cover? Look at 1 Corinthians 11th chapter. It tells you when you shave your head, the head of Yahushua is Yahweh. The head of man is Yahushua. The head of woman is man. And then it also says that the reason why the man is the head of the woman is because of the angels. But the Father says that on that day, I will make you wear sackcloth and shave your heads, which means that our women will not be covered because their men are trifling, locked away in prison, or running around with sister wives and whatever is going on within, sad to say, within our community. So our women are not covered. If our women aren't covered, then our children aren't covered. Evidence by everyone trying to get the school system back on track, because these so-called Negro children are horrendous within the school system, horrendous at home, and has terrorized their communities. And because there's no covering. Our women, 70% of them don't even know, have never been married, don't have a husband. And why? Because there's no covering. Our men are locked away in prison. Our men have turned to other means and other vices, and there's no covering because they reject the trueness of our brother Messiah Yahushua. Their heads are shaved. Look at Isaiah chapter 66, verse 1 through 3. Brothers and sisters, you have to be careful what you do. And I know many of you say, well, I just love doing what I got to do with the lamb and the sacrifices, and y'all hear what you're saying, but what's the repercussions? You know, this is just mine. I'm doing what I think I need to do. Fine. Don't push it on anyone else, because you're not dealing with the knowledge of the truth. Okay? You're not dealing with the knowledge of the truth. Look at Isaiah 66 chapter, verse 1 through 3. It says this: Thus says Yahweh, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house that ye built unto me? And where is the place of my rest? For all those things have my hand made, and all those things have been said, have been, said Yahweh. But to this man will I look, even to him that is poor and of a contrite spirit, and trembleth at my word. Remember now, he said, check this out, brothers and sisters. Verse 2 says, for all those things have my hand been made, and all those things have been, said Yahweh. He says, look even to him that is poor and of a contrite spirit, and trembleth at my word. Before I read this third verse, brothers and sisters, I want you to understand, it doesn't matter how contrite you are or how humble you are. It doesn't matter how loving you are. It doesn't matter that, oh, you love the Father, oh, and you mean it. You just really, really mean this thing. You know, I don't care what you say, yeah, I mean this thing, and the Father knows my heart. Well, then you get to read the third verse. It says, he said, it doesn't matter about all those things. He says, he that killed an ox is as if he slew a man. He that sacrificed a lamb as he cut off a dog's neck. He that offered an oblation as if he offered swine's blood. He that burneth incense as if he blessed an idol. Yea, they have chosen their own ways, and their soul delighteth in their abomination. Brothers and sisters, doesn't matter if you think I'm wrong or anyone who speaks like me is wrong. It doesn't matter if you have a contrite spirit. It doesn't matter when you hear the word of Yahweh, you tremble at it, oh, and you mean it. When you start to sacrifice anything, do anything, and say you're doing this on the behalf of our Father, he tells you how he looks at it. It's your choice. We'll take a little break. We'll be right back. All right, brothers and sisters, welcome back. I hope you had a little time to marinate on that. I know that's a tough pill to swallow, but that's his word. Why do you think they stoned the prophets? So once again, when you look at Isaiah, that's chapter 66, and that first verse where it says, thus saith Yahweh, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. He says, where is the house that ye built unto me? And we are the temple of Yahweh. But yet, he's not resting in many of us. Many of you pray he's resting in me. He says, where's my house? Because we are the temple of Yahweh. We are the temple of the Spirit. In us, the Spirit should dwell. He's like saying, where's my house that you built it to me? And where is the place of my rest? Why? Because remember, on that Sabbath day, we're supposed to rest for him. But not Julius Caesar's rest, or Constantine's rest, or George Bush's rest, or Obama's rest. Where's my rest? All right. Look at verse 4 and 5 of that first chapter of chapter 66, verse 4 and 5. It says, "I will also choose their delusion." See, the Father's going to bring you delusion. As it says in 2 Thessalonians, the second chapter, he says, "I will bring them delusion to believe a lie." Paul was just quoting what Isaiah had already prophesied. "I will also choose their delusions and will bring their fears upon them, because when I called, none did answer, and when I spake, they did not hear. But they did evil before mine eyes, and chose that in which I delighted not. Hear the word of Yahweh, ye that tremble at his word, your brethren that hated you, that cast you out for my name's sake, said, let Yahweh be glorified. But he shall appear to your joy, and they shall be ashamed." Brothers and sisters, many folks right now will not only look at me and try to harm me or harm the word that the Father's given me, but harm those who even come to you in love and say, you gotta be careful of following these people who teach you this kind of things. You will cast them out and even try to do harm to them, and you will say, praise Yah, thinking that you're doing right. The Father says, but he shall appear to you as joy on that day, because they shall be ashamed of what they've done. And so, as you see, there are many feasts of Israel, and those feasts are many times folks say, well, we can't, we can do the Passover, but we can't do the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Remember now, all these feasts, except for the Feast of Trumpets, have been fulfilled. And if you have any question about that, please go to the Kofa Network and and you'll see the Feast of Yahweh, and it goes into more explanation of regarding the feast. He has told us through his word. He says, therefore, because of everything we read in the scriptures, he says, therefore, let no one judge you in food or in drink, or regarding a festival or a new moon or Sabbaths. That's Colossians, the 2nd chapter, in the 16th verse. And so when we ask the question, when is the Sabbath day? Then we will refer folks to Romans, the 14th chapter, and the 5th verse. We won't say Saturday is not the Sabbath day. What we gave you in Scripture is how the Father looks at these days. But now the Father's like saying, listen, you don't know my day because you rejected me and I put you away from me. He says, but whatever you put in your heart, so let it be. And now, where am I getting this from? I'm getting from Romans, 14th chapter, in the 5th verse. It says, one man esteemeth one day above another, another esteemeth every day alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. He that regardeth the day regardeth unto Yahweh, and he that regardeth not the day to Yahweh, he doth not regard it. Now, I know there are some folks who are dripping with evil. This is just my opinion. This is Yahya speaking. Who will say, well, no, Paul was just speaking to the Gentiles. He was just speaking to the Gentiles. So if you, now, for those of you who don't hold to the so-called New Testament, believe it or not, fine. You don't believe in the YaHWeH, you don't believe in the Shalom, then you roll the way you got to roll. For those of you who say that you hold to our brother and Messiah YaHWeH and hold to our dear brother Paul, and you believe that he was filled with Yahweh's Spirit, which I happen to believe he was, then he would have directed them to the Sabbath day. But you remember now, YaHWeH came and they put him on a tree just before the beginning of the Sabbath day, right? So-called Sabbath day. So what these Pharisees and Sadducees and those in Israel were practicing, they were practicing days, but not Yahweh's day. They were practicing times, but not Yahweh's time. And so when YaHWeH came unto them, he said he came to his own, and his own hated him. And so this is why, brothers and sisters, Yahweh's time is not our time, and we lost our heritage. Now look at Jeremiah 17:4. That's what it's telling you. That is, and thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage, that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in my anger, which shall burn forever. Brothers and sisters, this is what we're seeing. We're seeing what's happened. And as you see, even those folks who wake up momentarily, maybe know about the Hebrew heritage for a year, 6 months, 2 years, maybe 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. And you see they go right back to the teachings of our ancestors. Let's look at Psalms 83rd chapter, 4th verse. It says, they have said, come and let us cut them off among a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. When anybody thinks of Israel, they think of those white folks living over there in our land. And just because you and your camp, you may say, oh, we're black, we're Hebrew Israelites. How about his word? Have some knowledge. Do you love somebody? Do you know who your children are? Do your children know you? See, these are the things. These are the things that YaHWeH came to try to tell us. But then when you heard him, you heard all the power speaking through him that all the prophets said before. So as they killed the prophets, they killed our brother Messiah too. And who's they? Your daddies and your mamas, your ancestors, my ancestors. But I don't hold to my ancestors. And I don't think you should either. Because why? Because Peter says it perfectly. In 1 Peter, the 1st chapter, 18th verse, he says, realize that you weren't set free from the worthless life handed down to you from your ancestors by a payment of silver or gold, which can be destroyed. Brothers and sisters, that's on you. We are here to give you a testimony, a witness for you or against you. How you roll is between our Father and our brother Messiah YaHWeH. We'll be right back. All right, brothers and sisters. All right, we're back. Listen, there's some reading I need for you to do, okay? Because now we went through the scriptural context of, why did we here at the Kofa Network cry Kofa, and how we look at the Sabbath days and the feast days and all those things. We went over that. Now you're going to read a little bit of history. So right now on your own, I'm going to let you see these next slides read them, and then we'll come on back and we're gonna go through each and every slide. And so if you're doing this in a lesson or with a group of people, you guys pause it at this present time or go through the slides. Each slide will be on for about 35 to 45 seconds. Take your time and read it, and then we'll go come back and we'll explain it, what you read. Okay? Be right back. All right, brothers and sisters. So you've already read about the early Roman calendar. You read about how the 10 months were named after like Martius and Aprilis, Maius, and you understand that the early Roman calendar was taken from the Greek calendar, and you understand how that even they looked at the original month and the markers were based on the moon. So you saw that, and so you realize that what they were doing, the Romans were trying to follow, the early Romans were trying to follow a lunar cycle. And they understood that each month was divided into sections that ended on the day of one of the first 3 phases of the moon, the new, the first, quarter, or full. And so this is how that's how they determined their times. Okay, very different than how Yahweh had told our people to do it. So as you see, that there's a new time that came in here. There's a new time. There's new ways how people are determining time. And since we are their workers, and since we're their slaves, and we're in bondage to them, you see, slowly but surely we start to lose what Moshe gave to our ancestors, and now we're starting to be bombarded with Babylonian culture. We've been bombarded by Persian culture. Now we're being bombarded by Greek culture, and now we're being bombarded by Roman culture. And you see, that's how you lose your heritage. That's how you get cut off from being a nation. And this is why to this day you can go to your own mama and try to tell her that you're Hebrew Israelite. She'll say, "No, those white folks living in Israel, right in the continent of Africa, they're the real Hebrew Israelites. We're just niggas, nobody." So you tell me, have we discontinued from our heritage? Go ask your mama who you are and see what she said. Unless she's been awakened to the truth. If not, she will tell you that Jesus is the way, the truth, and life. We're Negroes. We're lucky that the white man saved us. Okay, so tell me Jeremiah 17:4 has not come into full effect. Now, on this slide it says 6 of the first 7 lunations of 1997, for instance, had their first quarter full moon phase 8 days apart, inclusive 9-day spans. Also, July 1 of 1998 had a first quarter moon followed by a new moon on July 9th. Brothers and sisters, what this is all saying is that they could not even figure out the proper lunation cycles. And this is back in 1997. This is just 13 years ago. See, Yahweh's time is not our time. So if man is trying to figure out Yahweh's time, they can't get it. They will never be able to get it. But yet you base your time, your day, and then you browbeat other people to believe what the oppressor taught you. Does that sound even feasibly smart to you? So then these Greeks are getting a little more smarter. They're saying, listen, let's move to a Julian calendar. And they moved to a Julian calendar named after Julius Caesar. And that Julian calendar is all messed up. As you read here, they lengthened the days from to 355 days. That still left out 10 days. Remember, the calendar before then left out over 60 days. And so, they're trying to figure out when is the equinox? When is the moon, the sun, and the earth? When is the moon and the earth perpendicular to the sun? This is what these Gentiles have figured out. They figured out that Yahweh has determined everything through the relationship of the moon, the earth, and the sun. All right, like we've been trying to tell you here at the Kofa Network for a little while. But then they realized that the Julian calendar was not up to par. And so this clip here, I want you to read this. This is the Gregorian calendar, and I want you to read this, and we'll be right back with you in a little bit. But if you're studying a group, take your time, read it, and then we'll be right back. All right, brothers and sisters. I pray that this reading is helpful to you. This is history, and if you really want it, you'll read it. And I just remind you that what you read earlier, and you go back and look at the clips, that you remember when the Roman Catholic Church, when they started to trying to find out about the lunar cycle and things of that nature, they put a priest, the pontiff put a priest in charge of looking when the new moon will come. And you notice the priest mistakenly said, oh, the new moon was at one of the crescents. And he got it wrong. But for over 200 years, the Catholic Church and all her slaves looked at the Sabbath based on that lunation of the cycle of the moon. Now you may say, well, no they didn't, they didn't do that. Well, how do you base your Sabbath? The Muslims tell you that Saturday is a Sabbath. The Jews tell you that Sabbath is a Sabbath. When you look at all the news reports, they say, oh, the Saturday, they're closed down on the Sabbath or Saturday. So you are holding these days based on the same people who ran the world back then. They run it today. The Pope, the Pontiff, they ran it back then. They run it today, and you hold to their day. All right. Now, these next clips you're going to see is of the earth, and you're going to see that there's certain times of the earth when the sun and the earth is when the earth and the moon is pointed to certain directions to the sun, and that's this next clip you'll see that there are certain 5-point areas that measure up with the rays of the sun. And you have the Arctic Circle, you have the Tropic of Cancer, you have the Equator, the Tropic of Capricorn, and the Antarctic Circle. And certain times how the Earth rotates, there's certain points of the Earth that are more that brings in the seasons of the Earth. This next clip will hopefully bring a little more clarity to it. And you'll see here where the Antarctic is. There's a time of the year when the sun is more directly shining along the Antarctic Circle. Another time of the year where you see his line it'll hit more close to the Arctic Circle. Then here's the equator when you see that the sun is more aligned to the line of the equator. And then the Tropic of Cancer, you see that runs throughout the tip of Mexico, looks like, or the top of Mexico, going through Israel and parts of Southern Africa. Remember, not Southern Africa. That's portions of Eurasia. Okay, and then you see the Tropic of Capricorn, and that runs through just above South Africa, hitting just about in Brazil, looks like, and that line goes through that angle. The reason why that's so important is because you have to understand what these religious leaders, what these scientists were looking for. They were looking for the vernal equinox, and the vernal equinox is when the Earth and the Moon is perpendicular to the sun. But this is the reason I'm sharing all this with you, because it goes right back to how Yahweh counts his days. That's what Yahweh had explained to Moses and gave it to Moses, and Moses gave it to the people, and the people lost their heritage. Our people lost our heritage. So Moshe and Yahweh he hasn't spoken to these people. That's why these folks don't know Yahweh's time. So that's why they're trying to find out when is Yahweh's time. They're looking for when the moon and the earth is perpendicular to the sun. And this is called the vernal equinox, as you see on the screen. What does equinox mean? and the March equinox is explained, please take your time in your studies with your group or by yourself to look at this, and we'll be right back with you. All right, brothers and sisters, we're back, and I hope you had the opportunity to look and see what does the equinox means, which we explained to you is when the Earth and the Moon. The vernal equinox is when the Earth and the Moon is perpendicular to the Sun. The importance of that is this is what the Roman Catholic Church, the pontiff, the leaders, the religious leaders, and the scientists of the day. This is what they think they've been looking for. They've been looking for when the Earth and Moon is perpendicular right to the Sun. When there's roughly 12 hours of night and 12 hours of day. That's the day they were looking for, and this is why. And that day always runs along March 20th. That's why right now you look when is the first day of spring. They'll tell you it's March 20th. The first full day of spring is March 21st. Give you an example of that. The March equinox across cultures, which we're reading right here. In the northern hemisphere, the March equinox marks the start of spring and has long been celebrated as a time of rebirth. Many cultures and religions celebrate or observe holidays and festivals around the time of the March equinox, such as the Easter holiday period. The astronomical Persian calendar begins its new year on the day when March equinox occurs before apparent noon, the midpoint of the day, sundial time, not clock time. In Tehran, the start of the new year is postponed to the next day if the equinox is after noon. So brothers and sisters, just to give you an example, okay? In 1964, the March equinox occurred at 9:10 in the morning, okay? And so that's when spring, that's when a lot of the pagan religions and witches and things of that nature, they look at that, and so does the Catholic Church. That's why they make sure that Easter is after this point of time. Because Easter, they want Easter, the so-called resurrection of Jesus, and we know that our brother Messiah rose, and his name is YaHWeH, but they moved this day to the vernal equinox so that they can say, see, they can have all you gather on Easter during the time when the moon and the sun. And the moon and the earth is perpendicular to the sun, and have you praying to the false deity. It brings special spiritual powers to them. And not only does it bring special spiritual powers, brothers and sisters, the reason why the Father had said, he said, pray on this day, on this new moon, on the second month, or fifth month, or the 14th day. Why do you think he said all that? Is because the heavens are different than the earth. There are portals in the heavens, brothers and sisters. There's a way. He said, pray during this time. Pray here, because there are portals that's between the heavens and the earth. And the vernal equinox is a time when the sun is perpendicular to the earth and to the moon. And so this is what the pagans, this is what the religious leaders of the world today, this is what they hold to. And the reason why I give you this example of this is when, in 1964, is when the vernal equinox occurred. My birthday was 3 hours after this time. And so you said, well, why mention that? Brothers and sisters, I mention that because our lives is a story being told. And it's important for us to try to look at the scriptures for what they are. Within the moon, the sun, and the stars, there are answers to us. We are the children of Israel. That's our heritage. The world has taken our heritage and told us it's forbidden for us to look at the moon, the sun, and the stars. We better not know nothing about no constellation, right? Because the people in church, even they'll tell you that's evil. Don't do it. Well, that's not what the word says. We should know about our heritage. So once again, the March equinox, as you see in this clip, it tells you. See that? See all that full power hitting 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of night. The earth is perpendicular to the moon and the sun during that time. And so why is that important? We've been so messed up when it comes to the time and to the time and to the earth on when is the Yahweh's day, because it tells us in Daniel the 7th chapter 25th verse. It says, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given to his hand to a time and times and the dividing of time. Brothers and sisters, Yes, these folks who are evil, who came and enslaved us and put us away on slave ships, and now have us put in projects and hoods and slums. And many of you don't have any hope about tomorrow. They have thought to come and change times and laws, and they've done it on their time, but Yahweh's time never changes. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but Yahweh's word will never pass away. But many of you have adapted their ways, their times, and their laws, and you pass it on to your children, and it's death unto them. And so verse 26, 27, 28 says, "For the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion to consume and to destroy it until the end. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominion shall serve and obey him. Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart." Brothers and sisters, this is why we here at the Kofa Network do not proclaim one day holier than another. We look at Romans the 14th chapter, verse 5 and 6. We look at Jeremiah the 17th chapter, verse 4. We look at Colossians the 2nd chapter and verse 16, and we look throughout all the scriptures what tells us that Yahweh doesn't celebrate these days based on man, but he celebrates it based on the days he set aside. He gave Moshe. Moshe gave to the Hebrew Israelites, and the Hebrew Israelites discontinued from their heritage. And then we wake up after 2,000 years and some sort of ghetto in Chicago or Detroit, and then we want to tell folks that we got to follow the days that the oppressors given us. How dare we do such a thing? We are no better than our ancestors when we do that. Brothers and sisters, we do this because we love you. We want Yahweh to set you free from the tyranny of your own mind. He says, lean not upon your own understanding, but every word that proceeded out of the mouth and out of the word of Yahweh. Brothers and sisters, we are called to open this bad boy up and to search it and to read it and to make sure that we know what's in it. So that when no one can fool us, no one can lead us astray, we won't be bamboozled. We'll be the children of the Most High, ready to read his word, willing to shout hallelujah and tell our children about the truth. And then they reject truth, but they'll never have opportunity to reject a lie from us, because we are the set-aside ones. We are the Hebrew Israelites. We are the ones that the world is waiting for. Brothers and sisters, this is your brother Yahya Bandele, and for the Kofa Network, and for our brother Dawid, and for Yakana, for Uriah, and all those brothers scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, we say, don't let the ways of life wash you away. This is your brother Yahya Bandele. Say until next time.